Today, you guys are going to learn about linearizing a graph. And so this is the worksheet that we're going to be using. And for each of these sets of data, you're going to start by graphing the data. And specifically, the first column is going to be on the x-axis because it says the first column is the independent variable. And the second column is the dependent variable. So this is going to be your y. And so to graph this, when you're graphing it, one thing you need to really pay attention to is even though the numbers are super close together for some of them and super far apart for others, you have to pick the same interval. So if I'm going to count by ones, I need to count by ones the whole time. And I know for volume, I have to get to 10. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then going up, my biggest number is 40. And so I'm going to be lazy and count by tens. And then all I need to do is graph my data. So when I graph it, I get this. And then what you're going to do is you are going to use the cheat sheet to look for what kind of a shape of a graph this is. And so looking at this graph, to me, this looks like a graph that's like that. And if you don't remember the name of it, that's fine. And so this is your graphical methods summary cheat sheet. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at this and you're going to identify which of these is the one that looks most like the graph we just did. So this is what I think it looks like because it kind of goes swooping along like that. And right now we're going to ignore the second and fourth columns of this cheat sheet, and we're just going to focus on what it's saying to do right here. And in this case, it says to graph y versus 1 over x. So the reason why we're doing this is we want to write a general equation for our graph, but it's not a straight line, so it makes it really hard to do. But if we graph y versus 1 over x, it should get it straightened out so we can write an equation. So this is my x and this is my y. And so this says I need to do 1 over x. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to write 1 over x. And whatever I do to my data, I also have to do to my variable and my unit. So if it was volume before, now my unit or my variable is going to be 1 over volume. And it's going to have units of 1 over meters cubed. All right, so if I'm going to do 1 over x for each of these, I'm going to go 1 divided by 0.1, which is 10. 1 divided by 0.5, that's 2. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 1 divided by 4, and you get the idea. So now I've gone through and I've filled in what each of these are equal to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph this 1 over x or 1 over volume versus the original y. And what happens when I do that is I get this. And I find the slope and I get 40 over 10 because that's where this point is here. And then for my units, this is pressure. So my rise is pressure. So that's where I get 40 pascals. PA is pascals. And then my units on the bottom, because I did 1 over x, that meant that I ended up with 1 divided by volume. And my units are 1 divided by meters cubed. And so then I can also simplify that. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you do, you can. 40 divided by 10 is 4. And then this part here, I have pascals divided by 1 over meters cubed, but that's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So pascals times, and then I can flip the 1 over meters cubed upside down. So I'll end up with meters cubed over 1. And then if I do that, then I really just have pascals times meters cubed. And so that is where the units come from right here. All right, so now I have my x variable, my y variable, my slope. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to write an equation. And so I'm always going to start with y equals mx plus b. And then instead of y, I'm going to use the y variable. And in this case, my y variable is pressure. And it always goes variable, and then units are in parentheses. And my stupid way of remembering this is that the parentheses themselves look kind of like a U. And so parentheses, you just take the U's and put them around your units. So that's pressure is equal to, and then my slope, which we just found, is 4 pascals times meters cubed. And then my x variable in this case is 1 over volume, because that is right here on my graph. And then I just add my y-intercept, which in this case is 0 pascals, because the y-intercept is down here at the bottom. So I can just leave that off, and you're done.